Good afternoon. My name is Akash Jain. I am with Multifamily Legacy Partners. I'm very excited today as I'm talking to Luke McGrath from CMI, Property Tax Consultants. Luke, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers, please?
Akash, thanks for having me. So my name is Luke McGrath. I'm a multifamily property tax consultant. I specialize in multifamily. I do some other asset classes as well, but I've been working at CMI for about 3 years. I've got a background in multifamily appraisal. So I've appraised the majority of the apartment complexes in the state of Texas. I was able to use that background to leverage my expertise into helping property owners keep their taxes low.
Excellent. Thank you, Luke. As property owners, we have a couple of non-controllable expenses we call. One is insurance, and the second one is property taxes. Those are two of the biggest items that we have on our P&L. I wanted to introduce CMI and what CMI has been able to do over the years for multifamily operators in helping manage this uncontrollable, non-controllable expense line item.
Yeah, so at CMI, we're about 25 years old. We've been around a while. Our founders are Bobby McCulloch and Mark Cantrell. Over those 25 years, we've developed very good relationships with all the appraisal districts throughout the state of Texas. I mean, we are a Texas specialized firm, so we do some out of state work, but our bread and butter is Texas. And at CMI, we've been able to kind of corner the multifamily market through property tax. We're involved in all stages of the deal from the beginning to the end. So it starts, a broker will reach out to us and say, hey, where do you think the property taxes are going to end up on this property? We'll provide a forecast. And we work with Marcus and Millichap, IPA, Institutional Property Advisors, Cushman Wakefield, Northmark, all the major multifamily brokerages, and we help buyers and brokers pencil in where we think taxes are going to come in at. And I think that's really important when it comes to Texas. Real estate taxes, like you said, that them and insurance are the most important non-controllable expenses. And it's extremely important to underwrite those correctly and obviously as aggressively as you can up front. And from there, we take the property through the appeal process, which every year your values come out around April 15th. So it's right around now, values are going to come out. And once values are released, we'll have about 30 days to protest. We'll file our protest. And from there, we will take it through the board process, which is referred to as the appraisal review board. And we'll go through the review board and get a reduction. And one of the bigger things, given the state of the market, is that third step, which is litigation. And so, especially with apartments, there's been a big disconnect in the market between the appraisal districts and what's actually going on in the market. We've obviously seen prices come down, cap rates come up, interest rates doubled, tripled from what they were, with basically at zero. And what we've been running into is there's a gap between data and what the appraisal district is seeing. There's not a ton of distressed sales. There's not a ton of this distressed data out there that's showing these big cap rate increases. There's still a lot of loan assumptions going on, showing lower cap rates. And so it's a tough market right now in property tax, but I think now more than ever, it's important that you file litigation on everything, even if it goes through the board process, file the next step, file litigation. And it's also important to get broker opinions of value, try and show that cap rate increase, appraisals. We're starting to see market value become a bit more important. In the past, market value hadn't been something that we would protest. We would go through a process called equal and uniform, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but it takes trump over market value in the Texas tax code. And so in the Texas tax code, it says you can't be appraised essentially higher than your neighbor, appropriately adjusted. And so what we've done in the past is reduced everything on an equal and uniform basis rather than a market value, because when the market was coming up, all the assessed values were coming in at 50, 60% of purchase price. And so there wasn't really a case for market value unless you wanted to fight that purchase price. But now that we're seeing prices come down, market value is becoming a bit more important. Equal and uniform is still taking precedence. That's still how we get a majority of our reductions. Even though prices have come down, in Dallas County, I'm still seeing assessed values below purchase prices. So we're still going to fight those on equal and uniform, with the exception of a couple market areas that have been struggling. I know the Skillman Aldelia area has been struggling, and the Woodhaven area and Tarrant County has been struggling a bit too. So there's certain areas that will have better cases on a market approach, but for the most part, equal and uniform is going to remain how we get our reductions, and that's how we get everything reduced in litigation too. So just to sum that up, we start from the front, provide a forecast, help you underwrite your deal, which I think is very important. It's so competitive. I mean, back in the day, 2 or 3 years ago, it was probably, it's a lot easier. Things weren't as important. Deals were just flying. But now, even an extra $2,000 on your taxes can make or break the deal. So we start up front, we underwrite the deal. We bring it through the board process. That's every April, your value comes out. We get assigned a board date. We'll go through June, July is typically when our board date is. And then after we go through the board process, we file litigation and we get further reduction.
So then that's a great process. I know I have more than about 10 properties that you guys help contest every year. Let's talk about one of them in specific. Hey, you helped us go down from $39 million in property taxes to $24 million in assessed value in the and finally. Take us through that whole process. I know we bought that property at about $35.5 million, right? I think so. Take us through that process as to, hey, what did the first step encompass, right? We brought it down X million dollars. Then, hey, you had to file litigation and so on and so forth. So help me kind of synthesize for our viewers from $39 million to finally at $24 million. How did you achieve that?
Yes. So yeah, another property you're talking about. So basically exactly the process I was just describing. The notified value came out high, and again, when these notified values come out over the next couple of weeks, people are going to be nervous. They're going to be freaking out about them, but we're going to get them reduced. The district always is going to come out more aggressive, and like you said, they notified at 39 million. And so what we did is we took it through the board process using equal and uniform. So historically, the district will hit a property if it trades. They'll hit it harder than someone who doesn't sell because they know there's a closing statement. They're going to hit your property harder, and they want to know what it traded for. So what we do is we just scratch out market value. We're not worried about the purchase price. The purchase price does not matter in the state of Texas. We're gonna fight this on equal and uniform. And so what we did is in the Dallas County, there's different improvement market areas for the county. And so we looked at the improvement market area. They also have different classes for each property. And again, it has it's an internal system they use. It's an internal class and market area. It has nothing to do with really anything but their own opinion. So, we took the class, the IMA, that's how they class things by, and that's how they organize apartments in their different market areas, and CBA. And we looked at the comps in the area. We chose the best comps that we thought best represented the subject. We adjusted them down for rents, down and up. So say our subject was at $1 and we had a comp that was at $1.10 in rent. Well, we would adjust that comp's tax value down by 10% to get to the subject's rent. And so that's our simple adjustment process for equal and uniform. So we did that process through the board. That's how we were able to get that first reduction. And then we did the exact same thing through equal and uniform through litigation. And that's how we're going to get that final reduction down to around 24 million. So it was just equal and uniform. That's how we did that one.
That's excellent. That was a lot of value that your firm provided to our ownership group on that particular property. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Another question I have around property taxes is around, hey, recently last year, Governor Abbott passed a law which was supposed to bring down the property taxes. Help our viewers understand what that law was. How did it impact property taxes? Did it impact only residential? Did it impact commercial? Talk to us a little bit about what happened in the state of Texas through that law.
So the first thing that happened that you're seeing the direct effect right now is tax rates were reduced significantly. So there was a big surplus in the state Texas budget, and you saw tax rates come down, 10%, 8%, I believe around 8.9% in Dallas, some in Fort Worth, 12%. So these are really, really big reductions that we've never seen before. And it was basically a buy down for the next 3 years of those school district tax rates. So what the state government did is with some of the surplus of billions of dollars, they gave that money to the school districts. And in turn, the school districts were able to lower their tax rate because they had an additional funding for from the government. And the second thing was, and we're not going to see the effects of this until next year, but it put a 20% cap on the increase in your assessed value if your property is under 5 million. And this doesn't apply if your property traded after January 1st, 2023. And so if it was a sale, you're not going to benefit from this cap, right? That's how they're tracking that. Okay. If it traded after January 1st, 2023, it's not going to apply. And we're still trying to figure out the ins and outs of this cap. Any new legislation introduced in the government is always going to be litigated by everyone. There's going to be a bunch of holes in it. No one, it's the lawyers are going to have a field day with this, basically, is what our property tax attorneys have told us. And so I think the biggest thing is it's going to provide relief to, longtime property owners. Say you've owned a warehouse in downtown Dallas for 20 years and you haven't bought or sold, and your neighbor trades for a big number, and your taxes go up 50%. So that's going to protect those people. It also applies on a partial level, so we're not sure exactly how this is going to work. If you have an apartment complex, is it in your best interest to split it up into 4 different parcels under 5 million so you get the 20% cap? I think for apartments specifically, though, we're not going to see 20% increases in the near future just because of where the apartment market is. I think this might be more friendly to the industrial market, but yeah. So it's your market value can go up, and can go over 5 million and can go over 20%. But if your value is below 5 million this year on a per parcel basis, your taxes can't go up more than 20%. So say your market value goes up from 4 million to 6 million, well, you're still going to be capped. So, oh, sorry about that. And let me think, what else is going on with that bill? I believe those are the two major things, really. And again, your value does have to be below 5 million to get the cap. So, and we're still trying to figure out how that works. But the biggest takeaway really is the lowering of the tax rates, because that lowered everyone's taxes by a tremendous amount. And again, yes, the increases are going to be capped at 20% for 5 million properties and below, but for apartments, that's not a concern of ours. We don't see increases going near 20% in the future.
That's great. Thank you. One of the other things that I see when I see a property tax bill, Lucas, is I think some of it is coded for me. Help me uncode that property tax bill. What I mean by that is I see various different line items. I see a county tax, I see a school tax, ISD. I sometimes see a city tax. I sometimes also see a college tax. Help our viewers understand what are the various things that make a tax bill, how to read the tax statement.
And that could be tricky. Yeah. If for example, you've got a property that's in Dallas County, but it's in the city of Garland and it's in Garland ISD. When you pull up the tax bill, all you're going to see from Dallas County is the Dallas County tax rate and that millage rate, and you're not going to have the ISD or the city tax rates. You're going to be missing a big piece of the tax bill. So really, I would recommend you reach out to a property tax consultant just because tax rates can get complicated. And if not, if you want to do your own due diligence, I would make sure and see, if you look up the Dallas County tax bill and you see there's no city rate, you see there's no ISD rate, okay, then okay, I'm missing some taxes. And something we provide to our clients is just a tax rate list, which just shows, hey, okay, City of Dallas, here's a tax rate. City of McKinney, here's a tax rate. And obviously it varies with different ISDs, but yeah, I think it can be a little complicated. Again, they don't make it easy. If you've got a City of Garland ISD tax rate, you got to go on the City of Garland ISD.com, and then you got to go on the city's website is going to be separate from the ISD, so it can be a little tricky. But I think the first step, if you see those tax rates missing from the tax bill, that's a good indicator. If you see a 1.1% tax rate in Dallas, clearly you're like, okay, we're clearly missing 1.5 somewhere. And the Dallas County website, Tarrant County, Denton, Collin, all these major DFW counties, they'll have the tax rate breakdown on their website. So you can always go on Dallas County Appraisal District, Denton County Appraisal District, Collin, Tarrant. Tarrant County was recently hacked, so I believe their website's down until further notice. Hopefully they get it back up and running. But generally speaking, the tax appraisal district website will have the tax rates on there. When you get into trouble is you start relying on just the tax bills. Those can be missing rates. And also if you start, I've seen people rely on the T12 for taxes. Don't do that. You don't know what's going on in that tax expense. What was included in it? Was it a split payment? Did it include tax consulting fees? It's just not the T12 is not a good way to project or just to give weight for historical taxes.
So you basically said, hey, there should be at least three line items: the county, the ISD, and the city. Anything else that we should be looking at? Any other taxes that we might be missing from there?
No, generally speaking, that's it. Yeah. And there can be special districts in certain areas, but again, that's just something you need to be wary of and, reach out to your tax consultant if you have questions.
Got it. And you did mention something about, hey, on the T12, you may not see the tax consultant fee. Talk to us a little bit about how you typically charge your clients, how that fees vary from a client to client.
Could you repeat that one more time? You were lagging a little bit.
Yeah. So the question that I have is he talked about on the T12 side, we may not see the full picture and we may not have captured the tax consultant fees. How does CMI typically charge its clients? How do you guys make money?
So we charge a contingency fee based on the tax savings. And we typically cap those fees. The caps range, but all in all, you'll never pay us more than $8,000, generally speaking, for A or B all the way through litigation. Now, the fees range. If you have a lot of properties, you're subject to a discount. It can be. But yeah, we make our money based on the tax savings, so we're very motivated to save you money. But we also cap that, so you're not having to pay us. If we save you 100 grand, you're not having to pay us. 20% of that at 40 grand. We cap our fees so they're reasonable. But we also want to make sure that we're very motivated to save your bottom line, because your bottom line is income to us. So it makes for a great partnership.
No, that's excellent, and thank you for that. And I can certainly attest to that, as we have seen in some of the big reductions that we have seen, at least on one of our properties where you brought it down from 39 million to 24 million. So yes, the fees were very reasonable. What about litigation fees? So you said, hey, those are included up to a max of $8,000, if you may. So, hey, what is the typical litigation fee, and how does that process work?
Yeah, typically, we'll add an additional 2 to 5,000, depending on the property for litigation. Um, we will typically lower the contingency fee to kind of count. So say we had a 15% contingency fee, we'll typically lower it to 10 for litigation just to kind of help offset the attorney fees. But we'll typically just add on an additional amount to the cap. And again, it's just to keep us motivated to save you and your bottom line. And litigation is going to be it's a different kind of process. It still requires a lot of work on our end, um, but we'll typically just add to the ARB cap. And whatever we think is reasonable, but whatever we think is fair to you guys, because we know you have to pay for an attorney as well.
Excellent. Great. No, thank you for that as well. One of the questions that I had, Luke, was primarily around, hey, I know I've reached out to you several times when I'm submitting an LOI. And when I'm submitting an LOI and I'm doing my underwriting, hey, how do you typically evaluate what the tax bill will be? You and I have talked several times, and a lot of the times it's the formula, but a lot of the times it's also you look at the property and say this is going to be 80% of the purchase price, or this is going to be 85% of the purchase price. Help our viewers understand how do you come up with those numbers. And I know you're very prompt in responding to me, but talk to our viewers also about, hey, how can they get some of those numbers from you?
Oh, sorry, you're cutting out there. You
So
Could you ask the question one more time?
my question is around, hey, when I'm submitting an LOI, I have typically reached out to you and asked you, hey, what would the potential tax bill be for this particular property? And you have helped me underwrite those. Talk to me a little bit about how do you evaluate or come up with those numbers, and how can you help some of the other people or some of our other viewers who are submitting those LOIs?
Yes. Yeah, first, you send over a property, send the address and a purchase price. First thing I'm going to do is check and see if it's in litigation, just because everything's in litigation right now. It's really important to see if the property's in litigation. And then I'm checking to see has it settled, because a lot of times you'll look at the tax bill and you're like, man, that number's high and it looks high. And the reason it's high is it's going to come down. They've sued, so it's going to come down. Second thing I'll look at is the tax rate, where I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go up maybe 1 to 2% in the next couple of years, just because of how drastically it decreased last year. But those are the two most important things. As you get closer to the deal, best and final, I'll look at other comps in the area. Specifically, if I think it's in litigation, I want to see, hey, okay, where's everybody settling at? Do I have a property near this property? What's the median per unit? How high are they? And that way I can get as aggressive as possible, but also with being conservative at the same time, and making sure you guys get a good tax number to underwrite.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you. Question around, hey, I think CMI is primarily in Dallas, right? So assuming you have a lot of great relationships with the counties and the county appraisal districts in and around Dallas, where else within the state of Texas do you guys specialize in?
So we specialize in, I believe we're in over 100 counties in Texas. So we've got great relationships in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, all the major MSAs, and then we're also in a lot of smaller counties in Texas too. So I think we've got if you've got an apartment somewhere, chances are we've got a relationship with that county. We're very well connected all throughout Texas, and that's why we're Texas specialists.
What are some of the most friendliest counties or appraisal districts to work with?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
What are some of the friendliest counties or appraisal districts to work with?
Um, you know, I think most of the counties are all friendly to work with. I think some certain counties are more aggressive. I would say Travis County is very aggressive. They're typically at 95% of market value or purchase price. Bear County is also very aggressive. They're more in the 85 to 90 range of purchase. But other and Harris County, I would say that the remaining of the counties are all equal. They're, I mean, you present a good case, and that they're bound by law to hear you out, and it's a board process. There's three board members who are listening to your case. They're listening to the appraisal district's case. So they make the decision through the board process, and then the state legislature of equal and uniform allow us to take it through litigation.
Great. No, thanks for explaining that process to us. One of the other things, as I look at the property taxes around the country, hey, Texas obviously is known for its property taxes and high property taxes. What other states are you seeing that have high property taxes?
You cut
What
out there.
others, I'm sorry, what other states within United States have as high or higher property taxes than the state of Texas?
Sorry, I missed you again. But what other
Um,
states are you asking?
no, states. Okay. So which states within the US have similar or higher property taxes than Texas?
That's a good question. You know, I don't think anyone has similar property taxes in Texas. I think we're kind of unique. We get a majority of our state income from real estate taxes. Most states are pretty. The tax rates are lower. They assess lower. They'll take a property market value of a million. They'll have a 10% assessment ratio. So they'll apply that 10%, and then they'll apply the tax rate. So I think, and again, I'm probably not the right person to ask because I'm so specialized. I just focus on Texas only. I don't know of any states that are exactly like Texas, but I do know, one thing that sets us apart is we're a non-disclosure state, and there's not very many non-disclosure. I believe there's 8 non-disclosure states. So, you know, when you're in a disclosure state, like for example, Colorado, as soon as you trade, they get a hold of your sales price immediately. You're reported to the county, and your value is based off sales in the area. So there is no real equal and uniform in Colorado. You're going to get hit by what you traded at essentially. And so there's not a whole lot of fight there, but also, they've got a lower assessment ratio of, sometimes it's 6.7%. So they'll take your market value times 6.7%. And I don't know if 6.7 is right, but I believe it's somewhere around there in certain counties. So again, it's just not as big of a line item. So it's not as big of a deal. But in Texas, we are non-disclosure. So they're not required to go to purchase price. They don't get their hands on the purchase price. And we also have equal and uniform, which is a huge asset to us to allows us to reduce things below purchase price, which a lot of states don't have.
Excellent. Got it. What are the typical tax rates within Texas? Are they anywhere from 2 to 3%? What is the general range of taxes within the state of Texas, all combined, ISD and city and county combined?
Yeah, I would say generally around 2% is a good average. Certain places are going to be higher. Dallas County is around 2.29. Smaller counties out in the middle of nowhere will be lower, obviously. But we've seen a big reduction over the past year due to that state legislation. Denton, Collin, McKinney, those areas are all in the 1.5 to 1.9 range. So those are going to be lower. Dallas higher, Tarrant a bit higher. But yeah, I would say average around 2%, 1.5 to 2.8.
Got it. Great, great. Thank you for that. And also, hey, what advice would you give our viewers from a property tax perspective?
I would say get a good property tax consultant and provide them with information as early as possible. You know, I think it's important that you get your financial statements, your rent rolls, anything that's been going on with the property, renovations, deferred maintenance, all that. Get that to your property tax consultant. as soon as possible. That way they can start working on your property. You know, another thing is make sure you litigate. I think it's very important that you litigate. I think most people are at this point. I think the multifamily property tax market is very mature, just as apartments are in Texas. And you know, everyone's got a tax consultant, everyone's filing lawsuits. It's important. And another option that's important to be aware of is arbitration. If you have a property that's under 5 million, you can file an arbitration, and basically you will deposit a fee, and the fee ranges from 800 to 1,500 bucks. And you'll typically, this will just open up the discussions again with the appraiser, and 9 times out of 10 we'll settle the arbitration, and then you'll get your deposit back less $50. So it's a good, you know, if you don't want to pay that $3,000 litigation fee, you can file arbitration if your property's under 5 million, and typically you'll be able to settle and get some reduction. Now again, if you don't end up settling, you can go to the arbitration, and if you win, you'll be reimbursed your fee. But typically you'll settle before then. So that's a good option to be aware of if you have a property under 5 million. Arbitration.
Excellent. And I believe you are also recommending that protest your taxes every year.
Yes, always protests. Absolutely.
That goes without saying, right?
Yes.
Great, Nat. Thank you, Luke. Thanks a lot for helping our viewers today with their non-controllable property tax bill. I appreciate you jumping on today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Akash.